Okay, think about this for a second. The objects you interact with every single day, the things you rely on, for protection, for order, but you never really think about them, that door handle, the deadbolt on your front door,
Right.
or the swipe card that lets you into your office, maybe the keypad for the server room, that physical moment of access, the click of a lock, the whir of a solenoid. It's sort of the invisible infrastructure holding everything together.
It really is. It's the background noise of modern society.
Exactly. And that's why we're launching a deep dive today. We're looking into the global architecture of security, and we're focusing on a company whose name, well, might not be familiar. Allegion Plurk.
Yeah, you're not going to see Allegion on the shelf at the hardware store.
Right. But their systems, their brands, they secure literally everything around you. They are this behemoth behind the hinges, the high security cylinders, the sophisticated electronic access controllers, and now even the biometric and smart access stuff. So our mission today is to take this stack of sources we've got, a really detailed snapshot of their corporate structure, their 2024 financials, which are impressive.
Very impressive.
Their century-long history, and their pretty aggressive forward-looking strategy. We want to uncover what makes this massive yet kind of unseen company tick. We need to dissect the sheer scale of it. I mean, why do they manage 31 different security brands? And maybe most importantly, figure out where Allegion is placing its future bets in a world that's, rapidly going digital.
And setting that stage.
Yeah.
It's just so essential because this is not some niche player we're talking about.
No.
For anyone listening who tracks the industrial security market or, global manufacturing, Allegion is a critical company. They are an S&P 500 component.
Yeah. And that's not just a fancy label.
Not at all. That designation, it signifies massive market relevance, corporate stability, and, institutional trust. It puts them right up there with the essential infrastructure companies of the U.S. economy, even with their international legal structure.
So let's just quickly establish that scale with the 2024 data we have. The financial footprint it's staggering.
It really is.
Allegion reported a staggering U.S. $3.77 billion in revenue.
$3.77 billion.
That is a huge number for a company that's focused, almost entirely on just access points.
It is. And it really speaks to the high volume, the global necessity of what they make. But you have to look deeper at the profitability.
Yeah.
They recorded an operating income of U.S. $781 million, which is just... It's robust.
So when you have a massive manufacturing base like that level of income, what does that tell you?
It tells you they have excellent margin control, strategic pricing power, and this incredibly established distribution network. They can generate huge revenue very, very efficiently. They've basically optimized the entire process of manufacturing security.
And then there's the total financial structure. Their total assets hit U.S. $4.49 billion.
Yeah.
This is a formidable company with incredibly deep financial roots, built to withstand economic cycles. And all of that is supported by a global workforce of 14,400 employees.
And that human scale, it just confirms the operational complexity. They've taken the humble lock, the hinge, the door closer, and turned it into this sophisticated, multi-billion-dollar global enterprise. The numbers tell you right away that we are dealing with a critical infrastructure provider, one that's mastered not just the technical complexity of security, both mechanical and digital, but also the really demanding logistics of making and shipping those products to 130 different countries.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we even get into all the brands, let's define who Allegion is today. Our sources describe their core identity as an American-Irish domiciled provider of security products.
Bit of a mouthful.
It sounds incredibly corporate, so let's translate that. What exactly does Irish domiciled mean for a company whose main market is so clearly the Americas?
That's a really necessary clarification. When you hear Irish domiciled, you should generally think legal and tax headquarters.
Okay.
They're incorporated under Irish law. And that's often for strategic advantages, things like tax efficiency, a certain regulatory environment, access to capital markets.
But the day-to-day reality is American.
Exactly. The operational reality, the primary customer base, the executive culture, the massive manufacturing footprint, that is all rooted firmly in the U.S.
So it's the best of both worlds, in a way.
It's a dual identity. It lets them leverage global tax frameworks while staying physically close to their largest and most profitable market, which is the Americas. And of course, their global reach still spans over 130 countries.
So we've established the money. Let's look at the DNA.
Yeah.
They have ancient roots. The company's foundation traces all the way back to 1908.
117 years of legacy.
That's incredible.
And that century-plus legacy, it's not just some nice historical footnote. It's a
Yeah.
real competitive advantage.
That's-
In the world of security hardware, that deep history translates directly into engineering expertise, established regulatory compliance, and brand trust.
Right. You trust something that's been around forever.
You do. They have over 100 years of experience dealing with metallurgy, door mechanics, durability, and most importantly, meeting these increasingly strict life safety and fire codes. Their entire operation today is built on that bedrock of industrial knowledge.
Which brings us to a really pivotal moment, the spin-off story of 2013. This wasn't just, a name change. This was the creation of the modern security giant we're talking about.
It was a surgical separation. On December 1st, 2013, they spun off from Ingersoll Rand.
And Ingersoll Rand is what?
A much broader company.
Oh, yeah. A vast industrial conglomerate. They deal in everything from HVAC systems to compressed air. By spinning off Allegion, management made a really powerful statement.
What was?
They shed all the complexity and, the unrelated business lines of a mega industrial firm, all to focus exclusively on monetizing access control, the built environment. That was the new mission. And for investors, this separation was validated almost immediately. This is one of the most powerful indicators of corporate trust I saw in the sources.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the spinoff, Allegion replaced JCPenney in the S&P 500 index.
That is a massive data point.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes about how the market saw them.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They were born into the public markets already carrying this stamp of approval that they were a blue-chip, stable company essential to the U.S. economy.
And replacing a struggling retailer like JCPenney.
It was symbolic.
Mm.
Out with the old, highly volatile retail sector and in with the stable, necessary long-term infrastructure security provider.
So it instantly gave them credibility.
Huge credibility, lower borrowing costs, automatic access to all the funds managed by institutional investors who track the S&P 500. They were elevated right out of the gate.
Okay, so now let's look at how they manage this massive global footprint. They operate through this dual structure, Allegion International and Allegion Americas. Why is that split so necessary? Why not just run everything from one central command?
That split is absolutely essential because the security market it's profoundly localized.
Meaning?
Well, an electronic lock specification for a hospital in Europe is governed by totally different regulatory standards, like the CE marking, for example, than a lock in an American high school.
Ah, okay.
So by having Allegion Americas, they can focus all their resources on the massive North American market, tackling U.S. and Canadian building codes, specific distribution channels, consumer preferences.
And Allegion International handles, everyone else.
Exactly. It's built to handle the diverse legal, linguistic, and commercial realities of 130 different countries. You just can't do that with a one-size-fits-all approach.
And their corporate geography, it reflects this dual focus perfectly. They have the Dublin headquarters for, the domicile reasons we discussed.
Right, for the legal and tax side.
But the regional offices are where the real work gets done. The Americas offices are in Carmel, Indiana.
And that choice of Carmel, Indiana is no accident. It keeps them centralized within the U.S., close to major logistics hubs, manufacturing centers.
Right. It makes sense.
It ensures that the Americas business stays highly efficient and responsive to things like the residential construction cycle and the needs of big commercial contractors.
And then the international scope continues. Their European regional offices are in Faenza, Italy. And for the critically important, fast-growing Asian market, their headquarters are in Shanghai, China. This isn't just a list of places they have a mailbox. This is a blueprint for global logistics, tailored to 3 very distinct economic blocks.
And it speaks to the concept of supply chain resilience.
What do you mean by that?
Well, maintaining that operational spread means if there's a major trade disruption or a natural disaster in one region, the company can pivot to another production facility to fulfill orders.
Okay, so it's a backup plan.
It's an active strategy. We know from the sources that they have this extensive network of production facilities. They're in Colombia, Mexico, Europe, the Middle East, Australasia, the U.S., and New Zealand.
Let's focus on that geographical spread for a minute. Why would a company that supplies, say, sophisticated smart locks for U.S. hospitals also need a factory in New Zealand and another one in Colombia?
There are really 3 reasons: cost, customization, and speed to market.
Okay.
First, cost. Manufacturing mechanical hardware is a logistical challenge. Placing plants in high-growth, lower-cost regions like Colombia and Mexico lets them manage their input costs effectively, especially for products sold in those regions.
Second was customization.
Right. Security products, especially door hardware, have to conform to incredibly specific regional architectural styles and building codes.
Things look different in different places.
Exactly. Having local production capacity allows for rapid customization and much shorter lead times.
And the third piece was speed.
Speed. Security is often time-sensitive. Shipping a heavy door frame or a huge batch of mechanical locks across an ocean is expensive and it is slow. Local production ensures they can service their clients in, say, Australasia or Latin America without delay. That's crucial in B2B contracting.
So this huge network, it must be expensive to maintain.
It is, but it's their insurance policy against global instability, and it's their guarantee of market responsiveness.
What's fascinating here, and what really, I think, underscores the strategic approach of Allegion, is just the sheer breadth of their portfolio. They operate through 31 distinct global brands.
31.
It's a lot.
When we talk about global conglomerates, we usually see them consolidate everything down to one or two main flags, Allegion goes the opposite way. They maintain this whole ecosystem of specialized identities.
And that immediately raises a question about efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. Why maintain 31 different sets of marketing, sales teams, engineering pipelines?
Right.
Wouldn't it be cheaper just to brand everything as Allegion Security?
It would be simpler, sure, but you would sacrifice market trust and specialization?
How so? Each of these brands is like a key that opens a specific market door. You wouldn't try to sell a heavy-duty hospital door closer designed by LCN using the same branding and distribution network that sells a simple residential deadbolt from Schlage.
Right. Different customers, different needs.
Totally. The 31 brands allow them to dominate multiple security niches at the same time by leveraging long-standing reputation, regional loyalty, and the deeply specialized technical knowledge that's embedded in each one of those brands. They're trying to sell the specific solution for every application on Earth.
And that need for specialization is reflected in their product categories. I mean, they're not just a mechanical lock company, even though that's their heritage.
No, not at all.
They supply both electronic security products, including biometric systems and the traditional mechanical stuff.
And this dual nature is their strategic hedge.
A hedge against what?
Against the future, in a way. Mechanical security is stable, it's high volume, it's deeply ingrained in construction standards, it provides reliable revenue.
And the electronic side.
Electronic security, systems that read fingerprints or control access with software, that is the high-growth, higher-margin future. It allows for integration with broader building management systems.
Yeah.
So they manage that transition by mastering both.
And the range of end users just illustrates why this massive portfolio and technical duality are so necessary. They are securing everything. I mean, from sensitive government facilities to your neighbor's front porch.
And everything.
They serve the government sector, healthcare facilities, hospitality, education, commercial real estate, institutional markets, and both single-family and multifamily residential.
Let's just consider healthcare and education for a moment.
Okay.
Securing a school or a hospital isn't just about keeping intruders out. It's about life safety, fire codes, egress in an emergency.
Right. Getting people out safely.
Exactly. A single door in a hospital might need to automatically close, that's LCN.
Right.
It might need to provide panic egress, that's Von Duprin. It has to meet ADA accessibility standards, that's Glenn Johnson. It might even need a specialized antimicrobial coating. No single brand or product line could efficiently meet all those varied high-stakes requirements on a global scale. Allegion uses its ecosystem of 31 brands to make sure that every single niche requirement is met by a best-in-class, specialized solution.
Okay, so let's do a deep dive on some of these key brands, because this is where the ubiquity of Allegion really hits home. You might not know Allegion, but you are almost certainly secured by them right now.
You absolutely are. Start with the most recognized names, the residential and mechanical icons.
Schlage.
Schlage. Yeah, everyone knows Schlage.
It's the absolute cornerstone. It's synonymous with quality residential and light commercial door hardware, especially in North America. It's the brand that comes to mind when most people go to buy a new lock.
And they've cleverly segmented that market, too. They have Dexter by Schlage. That's a textbook example of using brand equity to capture a different price point, right? Maybe for apartment complexes or high-volume builders who want the Schlage name but need a more cost-effective solution.
That's exactly it. And then you look internationally. Austral Lock, Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
Right, because it confirms their localization strategy. They recognize that in markets like Australia and New Zealand, Austral Lock already has the local trust, the distribution network, and the specific product standards needed for that market.
So they buy that trust instead of trying to build it from scratch.
They buy that trust rather than trying to force Schlage into a foreign market where it has no heritage. It's a much smarter play.
Now let's talk about the commercial and architectural hardware space. This seems like where Allegion creates its regulatory moat, protecting it from smaller competitors. These are the brands that run large, complex buildings.
Take LCN. LCN specializes in heavy-duty door closers.
The thing at the top of the door.
Exactly. You rarely see the name, but you feel their product every time a large door slowly and silently closes behind you in an office tower or a school library.
Right.
These closers are engineered for an incredible cycle life, often millions of uses, and they are integral to fire safety ratings, making sure doors seal correctly during an emergency.
And then there is Von Duprin.
Ah, Von Duprin.
When you exit a movie theater, a crowded stadium, a hospital, you push that long bar to get out. That's a Von Duprin.
Almost certainly. Von Duprin is a massive name in exit devices, or panic bars, as people call them. This product category is governed by the strictest life safety codes in the world.
So if you own that brand...
When Allegion owns the dominant brand in emergency egress, they become a mandatory sales point for any major commercial construction project. They've built an entire business around high-stakes, non-negotiable building code compliance.
They also own these highly specialized hardware brands, Glyn Johnson, Ives, and Zero International. What are these small, specialized components adding to the empire?
They ensure the completeness of the security system. Glyn Johnson and Ives, they provide specialized architectural hardware things like coordination devices, door stops, protective trim.
The little thing.
The little things that are actually critical. And Zero International, specifically, focuses on high-performance sealing solutions. That's essential for acoustic isolation for fire doors, for meeting environmental seals in hospitals or sensitive labs.
So they're not glamorous products.
Not at all. But they are critical for compliance. They account for hundreds of millions in sales annually, and they allow Allegion to capture the entire bill of materials for the door opening.
Which leads us to this strategic vertical integration aspect. They're not just selling the lock mechanism, they're selling the structure the lock goes into. Brands like Republic Doors and Frames and Steelcraft.
That vertical integration is a genius move for efficiency and strategic market control.
Why?
By supplying the actual door and frame, Allegion ensures perfect mechanical and aesthetic integration with their LCN closers and their Schlage locks.
It all just fits together.
It simplifies the installation for the contractor, it guarantees the entire opening meets fire and safety standards, and it essentially locks Allegion into the job site from the foundation up. They provide the total ecosystem, which minimizes headaches for the builder and maximizes sales for Allegion.
But the diversification doesn't even stop there. They step outside the architectural hardware market with specialized security brands like Kryptonite and Traylock.
Kryptonite is a fantastic example of leveraging security expertise into a high-margin niche.
The bike lock company.
The bike lock company, known worldwide for high-security locks for bicycles and motorcycles. It moves Allegion from structural security securing a building to asset security, securing high-value mobile items.
So it's a different market, but the same core skill.
The core expertise in metallurgy and engineering is exactly the same. And similarly, Traylock expands their dominance in these specialty locking systems, particularly in the European cycling market.
Then you have the international strength brands like CISA and Bricard. These names anchor their market dominance outside of North America.
CISA, based in Italy, is a massive name across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. They're known for everything from complex hotel locking systems to high-security cylinders. And Bricard is a critical brand, specifically in the deeply traditional French market.
So again, buying local trust.
These acquisitions allow Allegion to respect and leverage regional heritage. In many European markets, security is based on trust established over decades. Allegion buys that trust and local distribution, making them instantly credible in highly competitive foreign markets where an American-labeled lock might struggle.
And finally, we get to the transition point, the technology angle. This is the section that proves Allegion is really betting on software. They own brands like Interflex and Siemens-Voss Technologies.
Siemens-Voss, for instance, specializes in wireless locking cylinders and electronic access control systems. This is huge because it lets commercial buildings transition to smart access without the massive disruption of running new wires everywhere.
You just swap out the cylinder.
You just replace the cylinder. And Interflex provides workforce management and time and attendance systems, which connects physical access to human resources and payroll.
And crucially, we have to talk about Pegasus and Yonomi. Yonomi specifically provides cloud technology. Owning a cloud technology platform that signals that Allegion understands the future of security isn't just about the strength of the metal.
No, it's about the network that manages permissions, data, and auditing. They are becoming a cloud company that just happens to make physical hardware.
So that's the synthesis here.
That is the essential synthesis of this section. Allegion strategically uses its 31 brands, leveraging the heritage of Schlage for consumer trust and the compliance of Von Duprin for institutional mandates, while at the same time investing heavily in the technology brands that will dictate access control in the digital era.
They cover every possible security need.
Every single one. They mitigate risk and ensure they have a market-leading brand ready to supply whatever the customer demands, from a traditional keyway to a sophisticated biometric scanner.
The kind of complexity we've been talking about, this global scale, this 31-brand ecosystem, it all demands really effective strategic leadership.
It has to.
So let's look at the recent management transition that kind of ushered in the current era. For nearly a decade after that 2013 spinoff, Allegion was guided by David D. Petratus. He was chairman, CEO, and president, and he really established the standalone company's stability.
Petratus was the essential figure for that foundational phase. His job was to successfully execute the separation from Ingersoll Rand, establish the new corporate identity, consolidate all those legacy brands, and convince the market that Allegion was a worthy S&P 500 component.
He provided the stability.
Exactly, the stability and the continuity.
But the shift toward this massive future-forward strategy we just discussed, this aggressive move into electronic access, that required a transition. And that's why we saw John H. Stone become president and CEO in 2022. Petratus stayed on as chairman until early 2023, which seems smart. It ensures that critical institutional knowledge was maintained during the handover.
And that kind of measured transition is just good corporate governance. You pair the wisdom of the founder, Petratus, with the fresh, high-velocity vision of the new leader, Stone. But what's really fascinating is John Stone's professional background before he joined Allegion.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. What I found most counterintuitive was CEO John Stone's background. Before Allegion, he was president of Deere & Company's worldwide construction, forestry, and power systems business.
Right.
So why would a security company hire a leader whose main experience is managing tractors, bulldozers, and heavy industrial engines? It seems like a strange fit.
On the surface, maybe. But that connection across diverse industrial sectors is, in fact, highly strategic. Allegion wasn't looking for someone to understand the mechanics of a single keyway.
What were they looking for?
They were looking for a CEO who understood how to manage a massive, dispersed, and complex industrial supply chain. Think about what Deere & Company does. They manage global manufacturing facilities, they integrate high-tech sensors and GPS into heavy equipment, they deal with immense B2B sales cycles, and they have to ensure supply resilience for products that operate under extreme conditions all over the world.
So the skill set is perfectly transferable. He wasn't hired to understand locks. He was hired to understand the complex logistics of building and distributing large, durable, high-margin, technologically integrated industrial hardware.
Precisely. Across continents. His experience managing complex heavy machinery, power systems, and multi-year industrial sales cycles translates perfectly to managing an industrial security company with 14,400 employees and dozens of specialized brands.
So it's a signal.
It signals that Allegion's board sees the company less as a small hardware firm and more as a major global infrastructure and technology player. And that requires a leader who is skilled in navigating industrial complexity at scale.
And beyond leadership, a huge part of Allegion's global expansion is not organic growth. It's driven by strategic acquisitions. This lets them rapidly gain market share, technology, and regional dominance without building it all from scratch.
And the 2014 Latin America expansion provides a textbook example of this rapid consolidation strategy. Allegion acquired certain assets of Schlage de Colombia S.A.,
And this wasn't some small company.
Not at all. The source explicitly states it was the second largest mechanical lock manufacturer in Colombia.
So they didn't just expand into Colombia, they bought one of the biggest domestic competitors. That immediately neutralizes a threat while gaining market share and regional expertise all at once.
It's highly efficient use of capital, and the specific details really underscore the value of that deal. It added US $12 million in revenue right away.
12 million.
But more tangibly, and more strategically, it gave Allegion a 45,000 square foot integrated plant in Bogota, Colombia, and approximately 350 skilled employees. This wasn't a temporary sales office. It was a physical embedding into the Colombian manufacturing landscape. It provided immediate local production capability for the entire Andean region.
Now let's fast forward 8 years to 2022. We see them executing another major move, a major market consolidation focused on the high-tech, high-margin side of the business. The acquisition of Stanley Access Technologies, LLC.
Yes.
This is a really clear indicator of where their future strategic focus lies.
This is perhaps their most important recent maneuver. Stanley Access Technologies deals specifically in automated doors, complex high-security portals, and sensor systems.
So all the electronic and automated stuff?
All of it. This acquisition significantly boosts their capability in advanced software-integrated access technologies. It provides a clear pivot towards sophisticated systems for hospitals, airports, and commercial real estate.
So it confirms the strategy.
It confirms they are aggressively buying their way into the electronic automated future. They're ensuring that as mechanical doors are eventually replaced, Allegion is the one providing the necessary high-tech replacement.
So that move reinforces the fact that while they value the legacy of Schlage hardware, the future growth engine is clearly Stanley's expertise in automated, sensor-driven access.
Exactly. And we should probably just briefly note the ownership structure as of 2017. Like with a lot of large, stable, publicly traded industrial firms, ownership is highly concentrated among institutional investors.
T. Rowe Price, Vanguard Group, J.P. Morgan Chase.
All the big names. And this concentration isn't just a detail. It means that the company's long-term strategic direction, including these multi-million-dollar acquisitions and the creation of venture funds, is supported by some of the world's most powerful, stable investment groups.
They're all betting on the long term.
They're betting on the long-term stability of Allegion's infrastructure strategy.
Okay, so we've established Allegion's massive scale, their reliance on legacy brands, and their history of strategic acquisitions. But how do they avoid the trap, of becoming a slow-moving dinosaur in a world where technology and security requirements shift every year?
That's the key question for any incumbent.
They recognized that threat early, which led to the creation of a really fascinating strategic maneuver, the launch of Allegion Ventures in March 2018.
This is their dedicated forward-looking innovation arm. It's a dedicated venture capital fund. And its creation, it signals a profound self-awareness.
Self-awareness in what way?
Allegion knows that the most disruptive, fastest-moving innovations in security, especially digital and software solutions, often emerge from agile startups, not from the R&D labs of 117-year-old manufacturers.
And the core mandate is highly focused. They are investing in early-stage companies focused specifically on security and smart access.
Right. They aren't throwing money at unrelated social media or clean energy ventures. They are hyper-focused on companies that will fundamentally redefine their core business.
And the initial commitment was substantial. It signaled they were serious. $50 million in funding.
For a company whose primary business involves casting zinc and machining steel, allocating that much capital to riskier early-stage tech ventures, it underscores a definitive strategic shift.
So they're diversifying their risk.
They're buying optionality in the technological future. They're ensuring that if some startup develops the next big thing in access control, Allegion has a seat at the table, either as a partner or as a future acquirer.
So let's dive into their portfolio spotlight to really understand this smart access focus. This reveals exactly what specific areas Allegion believes will define the future of access control. What story do these investments tell us?
The portfolio tells a story of moving from isolated hardware to interconnected systems. Start with Nuki.
Nuki. Yeah.
This is a direct, clear investment in smart lock technology, often retrofit solutions designed to integrate into existing door structures. For Allegion, this is essential R&D disguised as a VC investment.
So they get to learn from the startup.
They get to learn about software integration, battery management, user experience in the smart home ecosystem, and the rapid iteration cycles that software companies thrive on. all without having to develop those capabilities internally from scratch.
Then we see an interesting expansion of the concept of security with Connectech, which focuses on GPS tracking. How does tracking assets in motion relate back to locking a stationary door?
It connects security protocols to mobility and monitoring. If you're a hospital, you don't just need to secure the building, you need to track high-value mobile medical equipment.
Right, or a construction company tracking its fleet.
Exactly. Connectech expands Allegion's definition of security from physical access to logistical and asset monitoring. They realize that modern security is a full-stack solution. It often extends outside the building shell and into the supply chain.
Now let's tackle the most complex, but arguably most forward-thinking investment in the portfolio, Mapped.
Mapped is fascinating.
The source states Mapped raised a $6.05 seed 2 round in 2021 to build an API for the digital twin of data infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a mouthful of jargon.
So we need to translate that. What does Mapped actually do, and why is it so vital for a lock company?
Okay, let's use an analogy. Imagine a massive skyscraper full of thousands of different devices, HVAC, lighting, security cameras, and yes, Allegion's 31 brands of electronic locks and sensors.
All these different systems.
All these devices speak different technological languages. The Schlage electronic lock speaks one language. The lighting system speaks another. Mapped builds the universal translator, the API, that allows all those systems to communicate seamlessly.
So if Allegion sells the physical lock and the sensor, Mapped provides the digital nervous system for the whole building.
Precisely. The digital twin is a dynamic, real-time software model of the physical building. Mapped creates the API that allows a building manager to, for instance, open all the Von Duprin panic bars instantly if the fire alarm system, a completely separate system, detects smoke.
Wow. Or lock down a floor automatically.
Or to automatically lock down one floor if the human resources system flags a terminated employee. It shifts Allegion's role from just selling a standalone product to selling a foundational layer for integrated physical and digital security management.
That's a huge shift.
It confirms Allegion sees its future in high-level system integration and data infrastructure, not just in hardware sales.
That is a critical shift. It makes the company less of a manufacturer and more of a technology orchestrator. They also list Midhouse in their portfolio.
Midhouse is likely related to the hospitality sector. Specifically, next-generation, seamless access solutions for things like short-term rentals or corporate housing.
Okay.
That sector relies entirely on robust, temporary, automated access. It's a perfect testing ground for Allegion's newest electronic access technology under real-world pressure.
And we can also see the reality of venture capital in their history with iDevices, which was focused on smart home devices. The source notes they had already exited by 2017. What does that exit tell us?
It shows that Allegion Ventures is actively managing its portfolio, not just passively holding investments. An exit usually means they sold their stake, either because the company was acquired by a larger firm or it went public.
So they're not just funding these companies to keep them alive.
No, they're looking for successful strategic returns or technological integration. They are using the fund to constantly scan the horizon, identify market leaders, acquire key intelligence, and then either fold the technology into their core business or realize a financial gain.
So when we synthesize this, the $50 million fund, this high-tech portfolio, it is just irrefutable that Allegion is not coasting on its mechanical legacy.
No, they are actively funding, testing, and ultimately acquiring the next generation of interconnected, software-enabled access solutions. They are betting that the access point of tomorrow will be a data entry point first and a piece of metal second.
This is how they stay relevant.
This aggressive, diversified venture capital strategy is how a 117-year-old industrial power ensured its relevance for the next century.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, looking to understand the global security landscape?
Allegion Pilk is. It's a global, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that expertly manages the entire physical security infrastructure for nearly every market segment on Earth. This empire was successfully launched through a surgical corporate spin-off that immediately cemented its blue-chip status back in 2013.
Right.
And it's strategically driven by both massive legacy mechanical brands like Von Duprin and these aggressive, intelligent investments in the future of smart technology.
The strategic genius is really in their balance. Allegion successfully manages the stable, high-volume, mandatory revenues of traditional security hardware, the LCN door closers that have to comply with fire code.
Right, the stuff they have to sell.
While at the same time placing these intelligent, proactive bets on on disruptive technologies through Allegion Ventures. They recognize that physical security is irreversibly merging with digital access control, with biometrics, with complex cloud management systems. This deep dive really shows that the company responsible for securing the doors, frames, and access points in our daily lives. I mean, everything from the hospital where you were born to the university library where you studied is strategically pivoting. They're moving towards systems like Maps API and Stanley Access Technologies automation. They are ensuring their relevance far into the future, not by replacing their old brands overnight, but by supplementing them with cutting-edge tech that digitizes the entire access experience.
Their corporate strategy is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Maintain total control over the physical access point through their 31 brands, while using venture capital and strategic acquisitions to become the preferred orchestrator of the digital access management layer.
The value proposition has totally shifted.
It has shifted entirely from the quality of the product to the seamless management of access across an integrated building system.
Which leads us to the final provocative thought for you to consider. We've detailed how Allegion connects the physical world, a heavy metal lock governed by fire code, to the digital world through cloud technology and an API for a digital twin. What happens when physical access, who gets in, where, and when, becomes entirely a function of predictive analytics, of artificial intelligence, data permissions, and software management? And what does that profound shift mean for the security and resilience of global infrastructure when the true master key is no longer metal but code?
That transition from hardware king to software orchestrator. It's not some theoretical future. It is the active, current corporate strategy of diversified global security. Allegion is actively funding the ecosystem that will ultimately determine who can access the built world. They are securing not just doors, but data.